تمام we are live.
أهلا وسهلا بيكم في الويبينار الرابع أو الثالث ل 2025 الثالث ل 2025 وكل سنة وأنتم طيبين وإن شاء الله كلنا وإن شاء الله كلنا نستفيد ونجمع سيرفس بالذات الاي سيرفس يعني الناس كتير بتبقى بتحتار انها تجمعها منين، فان شاء الله نكون ساهمنا شويه في ان احنا يعني نديلكم شويه اي سيرفس. طبعا النهارده مجمعين ملوك الاثكس وملوك الكود وملوك الاي بي ال سي اي، يعني مش حارمينكم من حاجه خالص. ف وهنبتدي بملكة الاي بي ال سي، وشرف لينا كمان طبعا دكتورة منى من مصر تبقى معانا previously انها كانت الهيد بتاعت الاي بي ال سي اي ودلوقتي في النيو بوزيشن بتاعها. فهي طبعا دكتورة منى عندها 20 years of experience as an MCH specialist, 15 years as an IBCLC. She graduated from Alexandria University Medical School, of course. She got her postgraduate in MCH before moving to United Arab Emirates. She co-founded the breastfeeding committee in the United Arab Emirates and was the vice chair, achieving the first baby-friendly hospital designation there. Internationally, she served on the board of directors of the IBLCE as the head of the board for 6 years, or the board chair from 2022 to 2023. And now she is in the position of Director of Promotion and Advancement for Europe and Middle East and North Africa for the IBLC. دكتورة منى هتكلمنا على الجزء بتاع الاثكس اللي هو متعلق ب الاي بي سي ال سي في الديجيتال ايج. اتفضلي يا دكتورة منى.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة أمل، وبس توضيح يعني أنا بورد ممبر كتير بس شير 1 year. اوكي، شكرا جزيلا ليكي. Good morning, good afternoon everyone, and it's my pleasure to be here with you. And it's an honor to be invited to such an important webinar. I thank the organizers and thank you all for joining. And I will start immediately so there will be no delay in the webinar by the end of it. Let me share my screen first. Okay, can you all see my screen now? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, let us start. Okay, so at the beginning, I just want to disclose that I have no conflict of interest to declare, and this slide presentation does not contain any information related to the IBCLC exam, and it does not include anything that is considered confidential in nature. Our objective today will speak about ethics in using advocacy in the era of social media. So we will learn what is advocacy, what are the types of advocacy, how social media impacted advocacy, and what are the ethical challenges and the principles for online advocacy. Later, we will identify the responsible practice for using social media, and we will have few examples just to reflect on the real world, so we can all get the picture. First, what is advocacy? Advocacy means you are supporting a cause or influencing a decision maker. So it comes from the word advocatus in Latin. It means a leader on one's behalf. Someone is leading on someone else's behalf. Like when someone publicly supports the interest of an individual or a group or a cause, they are engaging in advocacy. They are advocating for something. So we can see that advocacy is a powerful tool for change. It allows people and communities to address their concerns. It is becoming an important and a cornerstone in many practices, especially in the health sector. As you know, you can promote a documented health issue that has a positive impact on the family or the community through advocating, like, for example, avoiding fast food, avoiding sugary drinks, and so on. So, looking from this side, we can see that advocacy will have absolutely many types of advocacy, but whether whatever the type of advocacy and whatever the tool of advocacy, and this will be speak about shortly, they are all united by principles such as clarity, flexibility, and the transparency. So, what are the types of advocacy? For example, we have the self advocacy. It means a person is advocating for his own interest, like your son is asking for the car or asking to increase his allowance, so he have to advocate. Why is he wanting this? This is self advocacy. Individual advocacy means someone is advocating for the interest of someone else, like parents advocating for their son in school and so on. System advocacy. It means like multiple organizations working together, asking for a change, whether it is a local or a national level. As you know, because I am living in the USA, as you know, the gun problem and gun control there, there are groups working on this process, trying to control the gun use in among the public people, public among public places. So this is called system advocacy. Another example of advocacy, like healthcare or patient advocacy. Here, the people working in the health sectors are advocating for the patient. Like, for example, they are educating the patients, let them know about the insurance. They are advocating for the insurance to cover more cases and so on. Of course, in a peaceful way. Legal advocacy, it means helping people to navigate the justice system. Of course, usually these have many specialization depending on the area they are working in. Another example of advocacy, which is victim advocacy, usually it's about advocating for their emotional support, their safety planning, or crisis intervention. And one of the most common example is the hashtag #MeToo. I'm sure most of you know about this. So, what are the tools we can use for advocacy? One tool is, of course, is letter writing, or we call it petition. This allows people to raise awareness through clearly articulating their problem or their concern on certain issue, and usually include the solution in that letter or in that petition. Example of that is the Amnesty International. I am sure most of you hear about it. It's a human rights advocacy movement. Usually, people write on behalf of prisoners and victims or whatever. Another type or tool of research advocacy another example of advocacy is the research advocacy. It means you are advocating through your research, through the data you are getting, through the information you can access. So you are providing the facts, you are focusing on certain data, and use this information to build your campaign. This is research advocacy. Another one, which is our topic today, is the social media advocacy. This means, of course, using the social media platform to promote a cause or engage the audience for certain topic. Anyone have free social media account, he can become an advocate, and I'm sure you all notice this. So through social media, you can build audience, you can raise awareness for certain cause, and you can go internationally very quickly, and you can connect advocates in a way that was never you were able to do that just a few years back. So the social media with advocacy has a huge impact. It make it a faster global reach, easier community building. It amplified the voices, hugely amplified the voices. It gives increased visibility hugely. But with this huge impact and the يعني wonderful effect of social media with regard to advocacy, it has its challenges, and one of the main challenges is the internet. So to use social media for advocacy, you have to have internet. So if the community, for some reason, or for place you are advocating, or the people who want to advocate, they don't have this tool, they cannot use, of course, social media, which is a challenge for that. But coming to other, I'm quoting from the UNICEF here. It was mentioned in 2020 in one of the UNICEF publications. Digital platform offer a unique opportunities to engage communities and to promote child rights, but it require ethical and equitable approach. Okay, so what are the ethical foundations for advocacy? The main ethical foundations for any advocate to be careful and to look for when he is advocating, especially when using the social media, are we can summarize in the following 4 points. First is truthfulness. Truthfulness means you should share verified, accurate information. Okay, you have to make sure about the authentication of the information you are sharing. Second, you have respect to the individuals you are talking to, or you are advocating to, or not just those you are advocating for, but also those you are advocating to. You have to respect the culture. You have to respect the community you are working in. Another ethical foundation for advocacy is transparency. It means you have to declare if there is any affiliation you are related to, any intentions behind this advocate, any conflict of interest, it might be there behind your advocate. You have to declare it, whether it is there or it is not there, but you have to declare it. Another one is accountability. You must be aware that when you are using social media to advocate a certain issue, you have to take responsibility not just for the content of your advocating campaign, but also for the impact of your campaign. Failure to commit to these major foundations, ethical foundations, are a major challenge when using social media for advocacy. So, if we take it from the other side, what are the challenges or for applying these ethical foundations on when we are advocating through the social media? Number one, as we mentioned before, is truthfulness. So if you are not committed to truthfulness, you will go to misinformation. The information authenticity or the source verification is a very, very big challenge when using the social media. It is very difficult to verify and authentify the information. As you know, as you all know, there is a high rise of the fake news and the misinformation when advocating. Sorry, when on the social media and the many platforms. Um, this requires, because this is a challenge because it requires constant face checking and cross referencing for the sources. This time consuming and resource intensive, and of course exhausting. Another challenge is online harassment. It is not just harassment to the person who are advocating, but sometimes it is a harassment to the people you are advocating for. So you are all aware or you hear about cyberbullying that targets or breaching the privacy that targets certain advocate or certain group of people when they are using the social media. Another challenge is the algorithm and bias. You have faced this many times when you feel that some posts are not reaching you or not reaching someone because they can filter the content and so it does not reach the intended audience. So algorithm and bias is also an ethical challenge. Overwhelming and fatigue, as I mentioned, because you have to follow the information, you have to make sure for its authentication, and you have to make sure that all the information you are posting for your advocate campaign is right, and this is all time consuming and exhausting, and this will lead to overwhelming and fatigue, and it might stop the campaign and it will not be successful. Another issue, which is, but we don't have time today maybe to discuss it, but hopefully if we have, I would be happy to explain the blurry boundaries between advocacy and activism. Sometimes people misuse advocacy and they are becoming activists, not an advocate. Okay, but anyhow, this is not our topic today, but just these are the challenges that we are facing in the era of social media. Now, let us have some examples so we can see how social media have its impact and how different it could be from when you are following the ethical foundation or when it is not followed. So, for example, we have this campaign. It was during the COVID time. During the COVID, there was some misinformation video it was called pandemic. I don't know if you hear about it or not. It was widely spread on the social media, and influencers start using this video, and media spread, and theories, conspiracy theories started to become all everywhere about the vaccine. So, what was the consequences of this misinformation during the pandemic? Millions of views. It was already seen by millions of views before it was taken down. It caused fostering the vaccine hesitancy. A lot of people they were misinformed, and so they didn't want to go, hesitated before going for the vaccine. And it's not just that, but it undermines the public trust in science, not just about vaccine, but later on you can see people are not willing to vaccine their children because of the impact they have from the era of the pandemic. So, what was the misinformation? Sorry, what was the problem here? It was the information posted. The people who posted it, they didn't put enough effort in authentifying the source of the information or the information itself, or they didn't update their information, and this led to this anti-vaccine campaign. It was an opposite effect. Another example of a pitfall for not following the ethical foundation is it was a campaign that went viral about certain data about infant mortality. This information was led to public panic, and the WHO had to issue a correction. But of course, after the thank God there was no much harm, but still there was a panic, and people starting to believe there was something wrong, and the WHO immediately taken action and started to correct the information on the social media. So the main ethical information here, the ethical issue here, which was not followed, false information, and not just it's a false information, it was presented as an expert opinion. Also, there was lack of transparency. There was no scientific base for this information posted on the social media. And so just not following just two ethical, not following two ethical foundations led to such public panic, like, which was truthfulness and accountability. People who posted this information, they didn't just have these two points to focus on. They didn't care about them. They didn't make sure that they are applied to their campaign, and this led to this public panic. But on the other hand, we have effective ethical advocacy, like the campaign led by the UNICEF. It was called Every Child Alive. This campaign mainly focusing on the child sorry, yes, the newborn, sorry, not child. It was focusing on the newborn health and the maternal health. And why this campaign was successful? As you can see, they focused on ethical storytelling. They have verified data, and also they collaborated with trusted local advocates. They partnered with trusted local advocates. They were culturally sensitive about their message. They were transparent when using the statistics. And this led to a huge positive response to this campaign, not just from the public, but also from the government. Another example, which is I think is يعني not funny, but I think it is because it's when I tell you the context about this campaign, you will know. In 2018, there was a National Rifle Association in USA. It told the doctors that they have to stay in their lane about gun control. They felt that when the physicians were speaking about the gun control, the National Rifle Association told them, this is not your scope of work, stay in your lane. So the physicians responded on social media with hashtag, this is our lane. They start sharing stories about how gun violence victims are coming to their hospital, and how what is the horrific situations they find themselves in just because of the allowing public use of these weapons. And they used what you call correct data, correct statistics. So this was really a successful campaign by them. The campaign went viral. It reframed gun violence as a public health crisis. It was not just a concern, it became a public health crisis, and it attracted media and the policymaker attention. So it was transparent. They used the right information. They were truthful. They were transparent. They were respectful to the community, and so on. So based on these examples, we can see that the best practice for ethical advocacy online can be summarized as follows. You have to think before you post. You have to fact check and make sure that try to imagine what will be the impact of the post you are placing on the social media, not just when it is related to your advocate issue, but also in general. Try to imagine the impact before you post. Use inclusive and respectful language. So when the physician were speaking about the gun control, they didn't. Yes, they focused on the victims and on the people arriving to the hospital, but they also put the effect of this on their families, on their community, on the panic it is happening in their community, and so on. Try your best to protect identities and stories, like especially if it includes children or patients. Yeah, you have to make sure that you are not including anyone unless you get their approval. Be transparent as much as possible about your affiliations and goals. Avoid fear-based or manipulative tactics. Do your best to be transparent when using the statistics. Um, Now, advocacy should be based on professional experience, or at least be partnered with trusted professionals. It should be respectful and data driven, constructive, evidence based. Now, to summarize, this is what we are talking about now. You can see that digital advocacy is powerful, it is ethically complex. Social media accelerate both the impact, but still it also accelerates the risk. Ethical principles must guide advocacy to build the trust and drive change, and our role here to be mindful, responsible, and credible. Please be the voice, but please be ethical. Thank you so much.
شكرا يا دكتورة منى، ويعني الحمد لله يعني أعتقد أن كلنا يعني استفدنا جدا من قصة الأدفوكاسي، ويعني نحب إن احنا يعني لو في أي حد عنده سؤال للدكتورة منى يتفضل. عندنا دقيقتين 3 كده للأسئلة. يا شباب يا شابات. الحقيقة دكتورة منى very informative talk، وأعتقد very much related للبوزيشن بتاع حضرتك دلوقتي. فيعني فرصة يا جماعة يعني اللي عاوز يسأل الدكتورة منى يسألها. يعني احنا معانا 60.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. اتفضلي دكتورة هاجر.
أهلا دكتورة هاجر، شكرا يا دكتورة منى، ما شاء الله يعني كان المعلومات مفيدة جدا يعني عن الادفوكسي. دايما يعني احنا نحط از اي بي سي ال سي، وخاصة عندنا يعني صفحات على الانستغرام او على الفيسبوك وننشر فيها محتوى، فمهم جدا أن يكون عندنا المعلومات هذه وحدها ethical foundation حتى يعني ما يغلطش ويخلي الصفحة ethic. أنا حابة لو سمحتي أسألك عن الموضوع بأنه ما فيش أسئلة، فلو ممكن توضحي لنا قليلا عن الموضوع اللي حكيت عليه الادفوكسي versus activism.
اوكي شكرا جزيلا لحضرتك، شكرا لسؤالك. يعني هو الحكايه كلها ان الادفوكسي means act of supporting, promoting a cause or an idea. Usually the advocacy is through dialogue, through education. Usually it has a constructive approach, strategic approach. Usually the advocate person will have عنده استراتيجيه معينه he will go through it to reach his goal. عادة most commonly قصدي كمان الادفوكيت person ده usually هتلاقيه diplomatic. He usually is not taking any violent approach. هتلاقيه often work within systems. يعني ممكن تلاقي ال physicians في ال health sector, ال teachers مثلا في ال educational sector وهكذا, بتلاقيهم جوه system معين. وبعدين they have also a long term goal. عايزين يأثروا يعني on the long run, مش عايزين, they are not working just on the short term. They want a long term policy to be applied. They want institutional change, سواء through their persuasion, through their collaboration. عايزين فده دي خصائص الادفوكسي. لكن لو جينا للاكتيفيزم هتلاقي الاكتيفيزم usually it has a direct vigorous action about certain social matter or a political change. عندهم الابروتش بتاعهم usually bold, usually urgent. عايزين الحاجه تتحقق فورا, immediately. They want an effect فورا. And they are usually also, I'm afraid, confrontational. They are not just telling their concern or raising their awareness about something. They are confrontational. Why you are doing this like this? And most probably the methods they are used, as we mentioned, the tools for advocacy, you have petition, you have letter writing, you have research. But for activists, they are protesting. When you are protesting, when you are blocking the streets, you are not an advocate. You are an activist. For example, if you block the streets to raise awareness about animal lives matter, it's okay. But you are an activist. You are not advocating here. It usually challenges the system directly. They are not working in the system, and if they are working in the system, they are challenging the system. They don't want to collaborate. They are challenging. I hope you understand the difference here. And as I mentioned before, their goal, they want the immediate goal. They want immediate change, not a long run change. When the physicians run for this is our lane, as I mentioned before, they know very well that this change will not happen immediately. It will take years, maybe, until they reach to have certain restrictions about using the weapons. But they didn't care. They just they work slowly. But activists, they want immediate visibility of the effect, and they are taking vigorous action, and they are usually challenging, demonstrating, and of course, and they are using also social media. By the way, they are also using social media. That is what's common. I hope
very interesting. ما شاء الله, very clear and very interesting. Thank you very much.
Welcome, most welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, دكتورة منى. و I hope إن إحنا نكون on time with you so that you can catch up with your other meeting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amal. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm really honored and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, دكتورة منى. دلوقتي هنبدأ نتكلم على حتة بقى اللي هي يعني بنحتار فيها شوية حاجات من اللي هي محيرة. طبعا مش كلها، مش كل الحاجات اللي بتحيرنا هنتكلم فيها، ولكن يعني بعضها. والجراي ارياز اللي هي يعني الحاجات اللي بتحيرنا ومش عارفين دي رايت ولا رونج والكلام ده كله، الحقيقة مش واقفة. يعني هي عمالة بتevolve all the time. يعني I hope that you can grasp what we have to talk today about and make some clear distinctions about these gray areas, but keep in mind that they are continuously evolving. Whenever we come to a conclusion about one gray area, comes a new thing or a new technique or whatever. So we are going to talk about some ethical gray areas in both codes, the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the Code of Professional Conduct of IBCLCs. But why is it important to clarify gray areas? Why do we need to know right from wrong? Sometimes gray areas, these are characteristically confusing, vague, or open to variable interpretations in policy and practices. One might interpret something right, and one might interpret it the other way around. We have so many examples, like, for example, the issue of the pacifier in the new BFHI version, that they said they have to be families have to be counseled about the use of the pacifier, when we know that pacifiers were prohibited in the previous version of the BFHI. Now we come to be confused. Do we counsel and be open to yes, use the pacifier, or don't use the pacifier, or we still ban the pacifier? The gray areas can negatively impact our best practices. If we don't have a clear decision about something, this can impact our best practices and our ethical conduct, and also, of course, the public health goals. So we are here to explore specific gray points in two critical infant feeding frameworks, which is the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the Code of Professional Conduct of IBCLCs. Of course, Dr. Ghada is going to talk to us about the code. I'm not here to detail the provisions of the code or whatever, but the confusing parts of the code, and also the confusing parts or situations about the Code of Professional Conduct of IBCLCs. We need this to improve clarity and adherence to each code. Through critical thinking, we try to critically think and discuss to reach a conclusion. First, the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes, which is a global public health policy adopted in 1981. This is like 40 something years old. So many tactics, many new tactics, many new media, many new products have been invented. Maybe intentionally to circumvent the code. The purpose of the code is to protect and promote breastfeeding. So let this be in our back mind, so that whenever we are confused about something, we ask ourselves, is this promoting breastfeeding or undermining breastfeeding? How is it supposed to protect and promote breastfeeding? By regulating the marketing practices of breast milk substitutes. So we have another question to ask ourselves: is it marketing, or is it just informing? There's a thin line between giving information and marketing. Then the code principle is marketing should not undermine breastfeeding. Then the priority has to be for breastfeeding, for promoting breastfeeding, not the interest of the companies. The key focus areas that create confusion, and the code focuses on advertising. This is an overt marketing tool that is very well known and well established, although that the methods of advertising are evolving, but the idea of the advertising is there since antiquity. Benefits to healthcare workers. This is another key point that the code highlights, that the healthcare workers should not be influenced by benefits that are offered to them by the companies. And information, quote unquote, information. And I meant to have it in this twisted font, because they are not really information to parents. They are other things other than information, and the product labeling. One thing about the international code, it doesn't have an enforcement power. It is only a recommendation, not a legally binding treaty or on its own. Like, for example, it's not like a treaty between nations that every nation has to respect and abide by. No, it's recommendations. Yes, most nations have signed it, but still, when it comes to implementation, every nation at its on its own, whether adopted it into enacted it in a law that has enforcements and sanctions for the violators, and others only have it like recommendations or just like a word of honor, maybe, or voluntary commitment. So it's not legally binding in any way unless it is enforced by law in some countries. What is the consequence of that? It is the effectiveness relies on the national government translating it into a strong enforceable law or not. Where the confusion comes from, that many countries have incomplete adoption or weak legislations or loopholes. Sometimes loopholes are intentional so that the companies have chances to circumvent the code. The result, it allows continued aggressive marketing, particularly beyond the initial infant formula, because the code in 1981, there was only infant formula. So it was very clear about infant formula. But since then, so many newer products have been invented that seemingly are not under the scope of the code or were not mentioned before in the older code. So this gives the chance for manipulation on the part of the companies and loopholes for them to use. The industry influence and scientific information. There is a thin line between right and wrong. The challenge here is that the code states information to health workers should be scientific and factual, not promotional. So this thin line between what is factual and scientific and what is promotional, some people say, how do I know about the new product unless the medical rep contacts me and tells me about? Yes, he can tell you about the composition, and that's it. He shouldn't keep trying to influence you and say, this is good for that, this is good for the health, this is good for the intelligence, this is similar to breast milk. No. He has to give you the scientific facts, just the ingredients, and you have your own medical judgment. What is the confusion here is that there is a fine line between genuine scientific exchange of information and that advertisement or promotion that is disguised as scientific knowledge. The tactics used, they claim they are providing educational support. They provide like branded materials, sponsorship of events, as if they sponsor education. Some, and you know who, have an institution, and not innocently that it has the same initials as the National Nutrition Institute, for example, have sponsors of events. These all subtly favor the products. What is the result of this? That there is a potential conflict of interest within the medical community and those who engage or fall for that. And there is an undermining of the independent decision or health advice. Another manipulation and another gray area comes from the scope of the products covered. As we said many times before, that 1981, there was only one product, which is infant formula, and there was another product that was the teats, the bottles and the teats. But since then, they have been inventing new products and they are marketing it along with the infant formula, or even switching the way of marketing. They started to tie sales with tie the number one or the infant formula with the other, seemingly, as they claim, allowed preparations or products like the growth or growing formula, the number 2 or now number 3, and the complementary foods, claiming that complementary foods are okay since we are advertising them and even changed the labels from 4 to 6 months. But no, they are not okay. Still, at least they make families rush to use them or start using them early. The availability makes it easily tempting to the families to start using them earlier than they should, and not use the other available in the community and more healthy products. So to mend this loophole, the WHO issued the guidance, which is the 2017 update of the code, which made it all products for infant feeding up to the age of 36 months are under the scope of the code. So why does this is confusing? Because they are effectively substituting breast milk or not. People get confused because they think since they are not mentioned in the original code, then how can they be effectively substituting breast milk? But they do. The result, there should be regulation and enforcement for these evolving products. They can be less clearly special, especially when not periodically updated. The regulations, even in some places where there are laws and regulations, but they are not regularly updated to the new products and the new marketing tools or tactics, such products and such ways of marketing can pass unnoticed. Also, the marketing of specialized formula and the claim of medically indicated. They say, okay, it's medically indicated, and the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative says that if it's medically indicated, then it's okay. And they keep making false medical indications to confuse people and delude them into and physicians into prescribing such products. The challenge here is the exception for therapeutic milks via the healthcare system. They they cross the thin line between the truly therapeutic and the specialized formula, like colic sensitive tummies for sensitive tummies, for example, that are not really very necessary or are not therapeutic. They claim they are specialized, but actually they are not therapeutic. Or like for example, for those with cow milk protein allergy, these are therapeutic. Like formulas for inborn errors of metabolism, special formulas for inborn errors of metabolism. But even those are under the scope of the code. Special formulas for special medical conditions are under the scope of the code, meaning that they should not be advertised. Those who need them will get them. Or even if they are provided by the governments, for example, the governments should buy them at the retail price so that when they dispense them, they are dispensing them soundly with a clear medical indication, a true medical indication. What are the tactics? They aggressively market to the parents and bypass the healthcare professionals. The result of this is that they conflate medical necessity with market-driven solutions. They confuse them together so that the families get confused and think that the not so necessary or therapeutic preparations are like life-saving for their children. They think that if their children don't get this colic sensitive for sensitive tummies formula, then their children are going to suffer much. But this is not true. Conflating the medical necessity with the market-driven solutions, this is a potential for overuse. Also, the issue of cross-promotion. They claim that they are not promoting the milk substitute itself. But when they promote other useful products that every child will use or every family will use for their child, like bibs, for example, like the car signs or whatever, with the name brands, they create what is called brand recognition and brand identity. People get like acquainted and get familiar with this brand identity and feel if this brand is producing beneficial and good products, then their other products also must be good and beneficial. So they tend to use them even if they don't need them really. So this is a subtle endorsement associating the brand with infant care and normalizing formula even without explicitly mentioning the formula. Okay, so this is an indirect marketing tactic. The result, this makes it harder for parents to identify truly independent information and truly independent advices from marketing tools. Now we come to the IBCLC Code of Professional Conduct, which is a sets the ethical guidelines for international board certified lactation consultants, upon which we have to work and hold our professional grounds. The purpose is to ensure the professional, ethical, and evidence-based practice. This is for the purpose of even accountability. It upholds core principles, which are the client-centered care, integrity, personal integrity and professional integrity, competence, professional competence, of course, and confidentiality, keeping the confidentiality of the patient, and advocacy for breastfeeding. And there is many gray areas about that. The importance of the Code of Professional Conduct, that it guides the interaction of IBCLCs with the clients, with the colleagues, and with the public. We interact with the client, and this is our primary work, but we still also interact with the colleagues. Maybe we refer, maybe we collaborate, maybe we explain what is our profession. Our profession still is not known among many other colleagues, and also the public. Okay. One gray area about it is how do we maintain objectivity among all the industry influence, and this also relates to the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. Here there are some gray areas, how we take the decision whether this is right or whether this is wrong. The code requires avoiding conflict of interest and biased decisions or industry influenced decisions. We have to have our independent decision when we consult our clients. The confusion comes from the pervasive marketing of breast milk substitutes, which creates subtle pressures. These pressures may not be very open, they are still there, but in a subtle way. What do we do about that? How to clear this gray area? We have to be very attentive. IBCLCs must ensure they are not influenced by industry practices, even if they are not intending to be influenced, they might slip into being influenced and taking decisions that are not very independent. Like, for example, small gifts. If I take a small gift, it's very small. I didn't even take something big that is really matters, but still, it can influence my decision. It can make me feel like want to show gratitude, at least, or be polite. The sponsored events, they are sponsoring my events, and in my events I promote breastfeeding. No, this is a dangerous opportunity, a very dangerous opportunity. Also, the results that we have to maintain strict impartiality, being very straight, not taking sides, and perceived independence. We have a very pronounced, and we suffer this with ourselves and our clients so many times. When we have our best practice ideas about breastfeeding and the promotion of breastfeeding, but when we are faced with a client that refuses, for example, this best practice, in the same time, the Code of Professional Conduct emphasizes that I respect the client autonomy as an IBCLC. So how can I balance this? How can I balance the patient's or the client's autonomy with the best practice that I am really convinced that it is the best practice as an advocate of breastfeeding? This creates a dilemma, and how to provide unbiased evidence-based information while fully respecting the client's informed decision and not fall into pressuring the client. Especially many clients claim that some IBCLCs have no mercy. They keep pressuring us to to breastfeed, and we all know that there is this group that they have this slogan "Fed is best," and they claim they were very devoted IBCLCs, but they had this. One of them had, or the founder had, her own daughter was in the NICU, and she suffered hypernatremic dehydration because she insisted to breastfeed and not to eat reduced formula. And she came to the conclusion that she did a great harm to her child and adopted the other way round, which is not sound at all. Okay, so we are accused of this. We are accused that we are pressuring the patients, or pressuring the families towards breastfeeding, and we are not respecting their autonomy. So we have to be very cautious and keep our balance in advocating for breastfeeding and the best practices according to our evidence-based knowledge, but still respecting the patient's autonomy and leaving them to take their informed decision. The result of this is that we need to navigate different ideas and still be guided with a client-led care. Also, we have our scope of practice, even if that we ourselves, most of us, are physicians also, mostly pediatricians. But even if we are physicians, some, as we heard in a previous conference, that some physicians take training in another specialty different from their specialty, and they cross the boundaries. And they do not work within the boundaries of their scope of practice, which is not acceptable and makes you accountable. The challenge here is that if I operate within defined scope of practice, and if there is something that is not under my scope of practice, I collaborate with other healthcare professionals. And when we make a team, we also complain that we don't have so many healthcare professionals that are supportive of breastfeeding, but still we are capable of making our network of other specialties that we can collaborate with that are supportive of breastfeeding. And here comes the role of our advocacy, as Dr. Mona has elaborated. So the confusion comes from defining precise boundaries, especially in complex cases needing medical diagnosis or intervention or multidisciplinary approach. We don't cross the boundaries, but we collaborate. The dilemma comes from ensuring appropriate referrals and communication without overstepping the boundaries. The result will be seamless, holistic care without compromising our professional standards and scope of practice. We come to the social media, but I will not talk much about the social media. A special issue about social media, that the IBCLCs use social media for professional outreach and networking, but also I might have my personal platform on social media. Then the confusion comes if I do not differentiate personal opinion in unrelated topics on my personal platform, and I confuse this with my professional stance on infant feeding. Also, even if I have a specialized platform, professional platform on infant feeding, and I give like promotional or educational or health awareness material on that platform, I have to keep in mind the audience, their orientation, their background, what do they understand and what they don't understand. If I say something that in my understanding as a professional, and they can understand it in a different way. I speak of something relative and they take it absolute. For example, that's a very famous example that happens all the time. We have to be very careful when we speak to non-professional audience that we use our simple language that cannot be misunderstood. Also, we have to be vigilant, maintain a professional boundary online to avoid contradicting evidence-based principles or damaging trust. The result of this will be a consistent, credible online presence. Another complaint that we very commonly have is the non-compliant client. How do we manage a non-compliant client? The compliant that is stonehead. دماغه زي الطوبة، حاطط 500 قفل على دماغه. أو يعني عنيد ومش ناوي يسمع الكلام. The challenge here is that I need to provide compassionate care and support even if the patient or the client is non-compliant or even refuses to comply by my consultation or my advice. Dealing with such clients consistently in a non-compliant, they have non-compliant attitude all the time, or refuse to follow up, or even hostile. The dilemma here comes from how do I balance the continued assistance and I don't lose my temper, I don't lose my patience, keep my cool with protecting well-being and managing ethical implications of client choices, and this also relates to the patient's autonomy. I give best practice, I give evidence-based consultations and advice, and still they have their free choice. The result of this is that I sustain my professional integrity while navigating challenging client relationships, trying to understand why this patient is so resistant, why is this patient is non-compliant, or maybe I didn't make myself well understood. Maybe they are suffering from postpartum depression. Maybe they have mental issues, social issues. Okay? The conclusion, I try to clarify these gray areas to move forward and to have a stronger practice. The gray areas exist, will always evolve, will increase. Whenever we clarify one, we will be faced with another one. This requires ongoing vigilance. The importance of this that we address these areas addressing these areas is crucial for protecting infants and supporting families while upholding the professional integrity. We need a call to action. What are we going to do about that? We should advocate for stronger national legislations for the code, because many manufacturers and many companies say, okay, I am operating and doing whatever I like because this country doesn't have allow enacting the code. No, they have independent responsibility to uphold the code, and equally they are equally responsible in upholding the code, just like the governments. Okay. Then the ongoing professional development for IBCLCs, we interact with each other and discuss the gray areas that we face, so that we can get more clarity in such gray areas. And those who have greater experience on how they deal with these gray areas can move their or can relay their experience to the less experienced. We also need to open dialogues and ethical reflections within the infant feeding community, and that's what we are doing. And we need to keep collaboration across medical and healthcare disciplines in order to keep our scope of practice and create a team. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
Thank
We
you
keep the question.
for the informative talk. And I think if there are any questions, we can take 2 minutes for questions.
Okay. Waiting.
I think we had a talk in a previous webinar. Dr. Asma Sadiq was talking about the pressure of patients. As you just have said, the stubborn patients, or the patients that are having a strong health, they are deciding not to comply, and how much this pressure is upon us as lactation consultants. So I think Dr. Asma was referring to or concentrating on how to face this pressure as lactation consultants. But in the talk today, Dr. Amal, you have emphasized about the how to deal ethically with these patients. So, do you have further tips on the same issue about the patient that is having a decision on her own, and then she's coming just to yeah, she's
Clear her conscious, maybe.
yes. So, as a lactation consultant, what do I need to more do to this patient, or maybe maybe you can just give us some practical tips كده to deal with such type of patient.
We need to try to find a common ground. First, common ground, and most effective common ground, that we are all interested in her health as well as her baby's health. We all agree on that, us and her and the family. Then we start from this common ground and give facts, scientific facts. Don't use the word you or the you, your, these pronouns, because they might provoke more stubbornness. We need to give the information and the scientific evidence in a more non-biased manner, non-personalized, so that she or the family will know that this is what science and evidence says, and still we give her the choice. We can't um, we can't do anything other than that. But there are some instances when there is an intentional harm. If the mother, I perceive or I have evidence that she intends to harm herself or intends to harm her child, this is another issue, and it's uh, in the code of professional conduct. One of the exceptions to the concept of confidentiality. But this is an extreme case. We don't want to elaborate further on it. This is more official, uh, more in law. It's more of a law matter or a legal matter than an ethical matter. But now we are talking ethics.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amal. Thank you.
More than welcome. So now we will come to Dr. Azza Ahmed from USA. She's going to talk to us about the digital privacy. Are you ready, Dr. Azza?
Yes, inshallah.
Dr. Azza is a professor at Purdue University at the School of Nursing. She is a certified pediatric nurse practitioner and international board certified lactation consultant since 2006. Her research program is focused on using technology and telehealth to promote health, especially breastfeeding promotion, education, and support. Since 2011, she collaborated with computer science colleges to develop and test interventions that support and improve health outcomes and maternal self-efficacy among vulnerable populations, especially mothers of preterm infants and low-income families using technology. That's why she's talking about digital privacy and digital health. She develops a comprehensive telelactation system and integrated video conferencing and tested its effect in improving health outcomes and maternal mental health in several observational and randomized controlled trials. She is the co-chair of ELCA Research Task Force since 2009. Welcome, Dr. Azza.
Shukran, Dr. Amal. Thank you for the invitation, and I am honored to be part of this webinar. And can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm going to talk about privacy, digital privacy, security in lactation management. This is what I'm going to talk about, like a brief introduction. We'll define digital health, what are the modalities, the common modalities. We'll go through the benefit, pitfalls, and barriers, and then focus on confidentiality, security, and privacy. And also, I would like to briefly also talk about digital health literacy and disparities, and also equity, and some of my experience in this actually digital health era. So digital health is actually it is integral part of our actually life right now. You can sometimes you cannot even you are forced to use it, or you cannot even avoid to use it. So according to the FDA, it actually has the power to save lives and cutting costs, and also speeding up treatment, increasing access to healthcare, and this is globally. And I will give you actually the WHO definitions and the guidelines. So with digital technologies and data analysis also created a lot of opportunities we see a lot of technologies that focus on modifying health behavior and how to actually manage health behavior and diseases, and also lactation. I'll give you examples. So this is the definition of the World Health Organization for digital health, and usually focus on or define it as a field of knowledge and practice that actually associated with development of and use of technologies to improve health. And it also expand the, we used to say e-health or m-health or mobile health, but it is expanded and including all the smart devices and the connected equipment. It includes all digital technologies such as internet, artificial intelligence, AI, big data, and reporting. I also like this definition from Roncolo and colleagues. They actually very clear and concise. So digital health refers to the use of information and communication technologies in medicine and other health professionals to manage illness and risks, health risk, and promote wellness. And it includes, or the scope is the use of could be wearable devices, mobile health, telehealth, also information technology and telemedicine. So these are the most common actually approaches that we can see, and we see in lactation services. We see the video consultations, which is a real-time virtual sessions with a lactation consultant. They can actually do like I'm not sure they can do full assessment because we have a lot of studies. It could be difficult actually. It is not accurate to do like a full assessment, but it's actually you can use it in like providing guidance. Also you can be able to see the mothers, but I will also talk about my experience in this. Phone-based support, which is usually audio consultation, could be quick, can be as a follow-up of virtual consultation. We also see a lot of text-based or chat support with a lot of actually messaging platforms and meaning to actually like a follow-up or asking immediate or urgent questions related to lactation. There is also a lot of apps, mobile apps, that actually online apps that actually provide in education, and also there is tracking tools or monitoring tools, and also the artificial intelligence driven lactation support. And we can see also hyper models. Hyper is a combination of like in-person and also the digital health way. This is another classification of telelactation, is a different the classification. Proactive telelactation, which you actually, when you schedule a virtual session and mothers plan ahead and they can solve their problems or whatever they are doing. And reactive telelactation, which is on demand or immediate if they need urgent care or immediate assistance, we call it reactive telelactation. And the mixed telelactation, which is a combination of proactive and reactive approaches, and usually also help with urgent consultation. We see a lot of benefits from digital health, and empower the mothers to have a like informed decision about their own like situation, or in the case of lactation support. There is a recent systematic review and meta-analysis. Like they concluded that virtual lactation intervention improved breastfeeding exclusivity, around like up till actually 4 to 6 months. And this is also, this was published in the Journal of Human Lactation. So what are the pitfalls and could be barriers? Lack of clinical validation and guidelines, because there is a lot of actually different types of digital health. Up till now, there is a confusion about its effectiveness, different types of the digital health, about like there is no strong actually studies that actually can conclude it's effective. But several studies, and as I mentioned, the systematic review said that concluded that virtual is effective. And there is limited guidelines to actually to follow, to guide actually the use of telelactation. Confidentiality, security, and data privacy, and we will talk about this. And I will also briefly talk about the digital health literacy disparities and equity. So those are at least 3 systematic reviews, which is a summary of those systematic reviews, which in case like mothers actually talked about their perceptions regarding telelactation and what are the challenges that they have seen. They said that it is convenient. They can actually use it from home. They don't have to drive. They don't have to like dress up or dress the baby. And so could be convenient for some mothers. Flexible. They can actually access or request to have a consultation at any time. Could be they express the comfort with the different types of digital health, and some they said it is efficient and they can actually have some kind of help and their problem solved. But the challenges is not a lot of mothers can use different like softwares or different types of platforms or digital type, the health, like different types of digital health. So tech literacy is a big gap. And of course, the privacy concerns, and a lot of patients actually, or a lot of mothers, when I was doing my studies, they actually expressed the loss of personal touch. So they actually miss, the face-to-face and hands-on actually support. Perceived clinical limit. They said it is just limited. You cannot actually use it in all situations. So I'm going to talk about confidentiality, security, and privacy. So this is just a statement from the WHO and talking about the digital health technologies, like including the mobile health. It is increasing, not just the mobile health, also the artificial intelligence. And yes, they can track, they can provide education, they can connect with the lactation consultant, but still raise a significant concern regarding privacy and security. So why we say privacy versus security? So privacy actually focus on patient rights, data handling, and compliance or regulatory compliance with the rules that actually should be implemented, and I will talk about this. Security is focusing more on the practice of protecting this digital data from unauthorized access. Excuse me. And disclosure, or how to use it in a proper way, and modification. And in this graph, you can see they are interconnected. Yes, both privacy, security, they mean, or the end result or the goal is protection of personal information. So for privacy, you collect the personal information using and like disclosing personal information. This is how to handle the personal information, the quality of data, and also how the access, who is going to have access to this personal information. Security is usually confidentiality, data being stored, how they are stored, this data, is it a secure place, or how to use this data, integrity, and if it is the data is reliable and accurate, and availability. So the interrelationship between security and privacy, and I am going to use the WHO guidelines. They have actually three actually. 2021 they had the guidelines for digital data, and 24 they have also about ethics and cybersecurity report, and also artificial intelligence. This is the report from WHO Europe. So data protection. So security measure protect the data and confidentiality, data confidentiality, integrity, availability, which are the basis or the foundation of privacy. This is how they are interconnected, and compliance with the rules, and I will give example of the rules. So privacy regulation often mandate specific security. So to be able to have to protect the data, you have to have the measure of security to be able to measure to protect this data. Trust and confidentiality, protecting privacy, build actually the trust between the provider and the patient or the mother. So if they feel that you are caring about their data, or how they to protect them from even like sharing their information, guiding them about it, sharing their information, images, videos, all of this, you build a trust between you and the mother. So those are the main data protection laws. So for each region, they have different laws, or rules. We call it rules or laws. But when you look at it, it is have the end result, or the main goal is protecting the data and the mother data, and protecting the personal data for the mother. The HIPAA, which is Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, and this is what we use in the United States, and it protects sensitive data information from unauthorized access, and also protecting all how to store, how to actually it shares the data, how to transfer the data. So we have a lot of rules we have to follow, and we also have a lot of training for that. For Europe, they use the General Data Protection Regulation, and it grants individual control over their personal data, require explicit consent before collecting, and we'll talk about examples from the HIPAA. Also, the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act, and this is from Canada, and this is explain how to actually use privacy, to maintain privacy. So those are just examples from the HIPAA, which I'm just giving example from the one we are using. There is a lot of impact of securing, or making sure that there is a private actually privacy and security, protection of personal health information. So the HIPAA, they tell us what you can collect from the mother and what you cannot collect, which is the personal health information. What can we collect? We cannot actually collect any social security number or the national number. we cannot do that. So, but you can collect like, you cannot even sometimes date of birth, you cannot collect this. So they actually guide us what kind of personal information we can actually collect. Compliance for insurance covered services according to their insurance. Secure communication and data storage. When we talk about secure communication, how are you going to actually to talk with this patient or with this mother? Do you use end-to-end in encrypted video conferences, or like any platform is what you are using? Not all platforms are safe. So how are you going to actually to secure the communication, or how are you going to make sure that not everybody have access to the data that you are collecting? So, or how to actually make sure that we use more actually authentication. We used to have like passcode or password, but we have now the dual code, like you have two way of strategies to access the data. Of course, consent form, mothers and or any clients, they have to actually sign their consent form, and this consent forms should be in their own language, their own level of education, their own actually way of understanding, and in a way that very, very simple to understand all what you are going, how you are going to use the data and all of this. So, and also ethical consideration. So how to maintain the HIPAA rules? We usually try to conduct regular risk assessment if any risk of data breach, if any risk of like incompliance. So we have to check, and there is assessment tools to check the risk assessment. Implement strong access control, and I talked about like the dual authentication. We enter the password and another code. We have to use it to, and they are making more complex now to access the data. Training is very important, and training for the provider, like for HIPAA regulations, we have to have the training, and all the students in the university, they have to have this training. Secure digital and physical records. How are you going to store the data, and how you are going to store the record or that they have? Monitor and audit compliance. So of course, the compliance with the rules, they have to make sure that they are following the rules. And I can give examples. So for the WHO, they have a specific consideration for digital health, and we can say it is kind of recommendation or rules, or like a very important point to consider, like data minimization and anonymization. Data minimization, so what we mean by that is we just collect the data that is necessary to collect, that's necessary to use it to diagnose or to help the mother, or to if you are doing studies, it's just the needed information. So it's very important not to collect or a lot of information about the mothers or the clients. And we try to like make sure that the identities is not actually clear to the individual, protect the individuals' identities. Protect privacy and confidentiality, and I talked about the end-to-end encryption, and also encrypted video conferences if you are using the video conferences, and also the way how to actually they have to have strategies of securing the data, and there is also protocols of data sharing. So how are you going to share this data if you are like collaborating with other provider? How are you going to share this data? We cannot share any data in the emails. So how are you going? There is several tools you can share on softwares also we can use. Transparency is very important. A clear policy, a clear rulings, and open and clear how are you going to use and collect this data and share the data. Of course, we talked about consent forms for individual, and we in this consent form we have to educate the client or the mothers that how are you going to, they allow you to use the data, but you need to explain to them how are you going to use it. Promote responsible data sharing. As I mentioned, we cannot share the data in especially medical sensitive data in regular platforms. Patient control, they have the right, this is the patient right to actually, and the decision to how are we going to use their personal data. Accountability, everybody is accountable to maintain privacy, security, and relevant data. And this is from the Global Strategy on Digital Health from the WHO. So the artificial intelligence, we started to see a lot of hospitals using artificial intelligence and algorithm and all of these tools with more advanced technology. So the more the advanced the technology, the higher the risk of actually, or the higher the concern about privacy and security. With artificial intelligence, there is a risk of unauthorized access and use of sensitive data, patient data. Why? Because AI, they use a big, require actually a large data sets. You can enter the data and they can create like a protocol or a plan or something like this. So at this point, so minimization, you cannot actually you cannot control this minimization or not the data using a lot of data. Oops, sorry. So there is a risk actually of use the sensitive data in not a safe way. So when we actually use the data, we should de-identify the data. So it is not the mothers or the patient is not identified. So we have to de-identify. But with the AI, there is a risk of re-identification. So they can know who is this. And there is a lot of limitation for de-identification. And as I mentioned, with more advanced technology, the more the risk. For regulatory compliance, like as I mentioned, all those rules and HIPAA and the European and Canadian rules. So there is also a risk of accessing the data and breaching confidentiality or all of this. So we have to make sure that there is a robust cybersecurity protocols and try as much as we can to limit data AI access to the data, or try to have a minimum data necessary. So digital health disparities, yeah, literacy, and I like what I want to do. I like my main point here. I want to share it briefly. Digital health literacy, disparities, and equities. Not all the classes, like socioeconomic classes, they can understand and use the digital health platforms, any types of digital health. So we have to think about, teaching the mothers or the parents or the clients how to use this. Make sure they actually using it correctly and how to use it. because it is unfair. If you have certain populations, they can use it and they get the benefit, but at the same time, there is other group that they cannot get this benefit. And so make sure about think if you are using any type of digital health, like availability, is it available for everybody? Is it affordable? They can afford it. Is it expensive? Not expensive? Is it appropriate for them? Is it actually different level of way, different level, like different culture, could be different culture actually. So it's very important to think about this, ensure inclusiveness and equity. As I mentioned, different types of population. You can actually, like here in the United States, up till now, there is some locations, they don't have access to the internet or very limited access to the internet. So how can they reach this? There is also certain ways how to actually make sure they get the benefit of this digital health apps or communication, or how to get in contact with the lactation consultant to help them. So equal, like they have to have their access actually, and their needs actually also could be different. So different population with different needs is very important. For AI, when they use AI, they actually sometimes create the protocols or algorithm in like a biased way. So that's actually, some they could have the training, some they don't have the training, some they use inaccurate actually, or not appropriate information to develop protocols that's actually not appropriate for certain population. So that could lead to inaccurate or unfair outcomes, and also particularly for, like we say, we'd say underserved population or groups, but we also say the the upper class or high socioeconomic or lower socioeconomic. So this is my main point, is that you should include everybody, not just, the high or the rich people or high class people. Okay, this is some experience from my studies and my observation. I have done 4 studies using three studies using telelactation software, which is in the beginning it was like a tracking and also education, giving education to the mothers, and also at the same time lactation consultant can actually communicate with the mother, and through the system, through the text, and also integrated a video conferencing in the other study. From the beginning, and I started this like 2011 or 12. I collected comment from the mothers at the end of the study, and I remember one of them, or like not just one, several of them, they told me this does not replace the in-person. This does not replace the in-person. You have to have the in-person. We cannot actually live with this just dealing with the software. So it was clear from the beginning, it should not be the first option, or we have to take it in case of emergency. Like we remember during the time of COVID, we were forced actually to use telehealth and telelactation. So a lot of mothers, they actually, when we integrated the video conferences and we used Zoom and it was protected, a lot of them, they didn't want actually to show their situation on the camera. So they preferred not just to talk with the lactation consultant. They enjoyed talking the lactation consultant, taking some guidance and helping them. But to do assessment, a lot of them, they actually refuse to do that. Hyper digital health is the most effective. according to the literature, like more than way of digital health is effective, like education with the consultation, education with the tracking, some kind of this intervention. And also hybrid also, if you remember in the definition, hybrid means in person and digital. So if they started in person as an initiation of this service and then use a digital for the follow-up, or like follow-up for or whatever they have solving the problems, is very important. Mothers' education about using social media and sharing information. We found out that a lot of mothers, they just want to use the social media without knowing the risk and without knowing the risk of sharing their images, their videos, their even with text. So, and they even talk with somebody they don't know. They are not sure from who are those. So this is very dangerous. So it is very important to teach the mothers about privacy and security. And I found this here, even like they don't have a background, what could be the risk. So it's very important to teach as we do training for the provider, we also do like training for the mothers. Scope of practice, I think Dr. Amal talked about this, but I just want to say, like each profession, they have to stick with their own scope of practice. Like, for example, I am a nurse. I don't have the authority to diagnose or to prescribe or something like this. If I am a nurse practitioner here in the United States, the nurse practitioners, they have the authority to prescribe, but not in all the conditions. Like I am a certified pediatric nurse practitioner, but I don't have authority to prescribe because I am not practicing. I have to actually to have a collaborative form and agreement to be able to get the prescriptive authority. But I noticed that everybody can prescribe. I'm not sure about that, but it is very important, and each one to stick with their own scope of practice. And I was thinking to talk about copyright, but I don't think this could be like what I wanted to say is that if you have if copyright, we all know about the protected materials like presentations, educational materials, like even softwares, all of this. Each actually materials, they have the copyright, and we have to actually respect the copyrights. These are my references, and I'm done. And thank you so much for the invitation again. And I am honored to be part of this webinar. And I'm happy to have any question. I'm going to stop sharing.
أي أسئلة للدكتورة منى؟ طبعا يعني very informative وموضوع جديد، قلت إنك شغالة فيه من 2011، لكن تشالنجز جديدة بقى جت، وطبعا التوسع زاد مع الكوفيد، والأيام دي بقى AI دكتور شات جي بي تي، البيشنتس بيروحوا لشات جي بي تي يسألوه ويجوا يختبروكي.
Yes.
ف what do you think about this? and يعني احنا بنكلم البروفيشنالز ونقول لهم ايه الاحتياطات and education what they should be doing as professionals when dealing with AI platforms. But how can we manage or how can we limit patients or clients resorting to AI platforms in a maybe responsible form, in a non-responsible form, with all its risks for their health and for their privacy. How can we deal with this matter?
So I feel that the education is very important. We have to educate them, like as we provide information about like benefit of breast milk or all of these advantages. But it is very important to give them like a handout about, and we have a handout actually in the HERSA handout about security and privacy and sharing, and this is actually directed to the mothers or the clients. So education is very important. They have to understand that it is very dangerous actually to share these images or to talk with somebody they are not sure from their credibility. So it is very important. And for providers, we see now like using the chat GPT and asking how to do this, how to manage this, and how to. But when they look at the data, it is not like there is a lot of, even the chat GPT, they say there is a risk of mistakes, there is a risk of
but the clients, they don't have this. They think that ChatGPT knows it all. So they resort to ChatGPT rather than resorting to the physician or the healthcare provider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is unfortunately this is the cost of technology. So yeah, it is very dangerous, and like I struggle with this with my student too. But I give them examples. If you ask ChatGPT about this condition, and they give you the information, make sure this is actually correct and reliable and valid. And so as I mentioned, education is very important. It's very important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azza. Now we come to the research, the ethics of lactation research, with Dr. Karen Cadwell. Dr. Karen Cadwell, she's a PhD holder and she's a registered nurse. She's an IPCLC. She is the chair of the Healthy Children Project, the very well-known Healthy Children Project, the Center for Breastfeeding. She has done great work in the field of baby friendly, in the field of skin to skin. She has done a lot of work, and we toured the country, Egypt, with her, and she toured so many countries with research on skin to skin and the golden hour, what happens and the steps of the infant interaction until it goes to the breast. She finally had a Cochrane review on that, and that was a very concise culmination of this great work that took so many years in the whole world, around the world. Welcome, Dr. Karen. Dr. Karen? Dr. Karen? We can't hear you. Dr. Karen, you're muted.
Turn on the mic.
You were muted.
Yes. Okay. Now I'll come back.
Okay.
Tap share screen and slideshow from the beginning. Is that it?
Yes.
You can see me and hear me? Great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. We
it's
can see your
absolutely
slides.
wonderful to be here with you and to
Wonderful
talk.
to have you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. It's wonderful to be here with you. I only wish I was there in person with you and we could go out for some tea or dinner after this.
Yes. Yes. We also do.
Yes, so maybe soon. So today I want to talk about ethics in research, and first of all to tell you that I have no conflicts to declare. When we're thinking about ethics in research, the most important thing is that we need to focus on protecting patient health. And in line with the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm, and the Declaration of Geneva that emphasizes that the health of my patient will be my first consideration, the first priority of research in the areas of breastfeeding and human lactation should be to promote the health and well-being of the patients involved. When we think about research, we think about all of the other people who are going to benefit from this research, but it's very important to focus on the people that we're doing the research with. The 7 universal principles of biomedical ethics are well known, I'm sure, to everyone who's on this program today. And when we look at producing a research study for examination by an institutional review board, we need to keep in mind all of these 7 universal principles of biomedical ethics. Fortunately, they have been combined into the Declaration of Helsinki, which incorporates all of the ethical principles. What we should be aiming for is the maximum benefits that minimize potential harm. So the Declaration of Helsinki is the statement outlining the ethical principles for medical research, and that includes breastfeeding and human lactation. It provides a foundation for scientific efforts worldwide, protecting those who participate in medical research for their own benefit, that is, the benefit of the researcher, as well as the benefit of other people with similar medical conditions and the patients. The ethical principles and protections outlined in the Declaration of Helsinki ensure that research in breastfeeding and human lactation is done in a way that results in the best possible outcomes for all. Some studies explicitly state this. For example, I was reading the study this morning about the role of silver nipple protectors in treating nipple trauma, and this is a quote that was actually included in the Journal of Human Lactation publication. This study was conducted in accordance with the guidelines of the Helsinki Declaration. And many researcher articles actually explicitly say that. You don't have to when you're publishing an article, but it's very common for people to do that. Under the Declaration of Helsinki, not everyone can do medical research. Researchers are required to have scientific or medical training and conduct their research under the guidance of licensed healthcare providers in order to conduct this kind of research. And it can only conduct research if the importance of the findings outweighs the risk to human subjects. So people can have a great idea. Let's say that we should give babies juice instead of milk for the first 2 weeks of life. Well, that might be important for us to know that apple juice or tomato juice or orange juice is not good for babies the first 2 weeks of life. That might be an important finding, but the risk to the babies is too high. And so we can't just willy-nilly conduct research just because we think it would be interesting. Also, research needs to be conducted with full transparency. That is that we can't have secrets in research. We have to let people know what we're studying. So, for example, when we're studying what the baby is doing in the first hour after birth, the mother needs to know that we're studying what her baby is doing in the first hour after birth, and the staff need to know that that's what we're looking at. And the other important piece of under the Declaration of Helsinki is that there are certainly certain groups that are considered vulnerable groups, and those groups must have additional protection from potential harms. Just to say that there are some studies that may have an exemption, even though they involve humans in the abstract. For example, a review of the literature or library work. That may involve studies that involved humans, but there aren't humans explicitly in the work that you're doing. Meta-analyses or systematic reviews are reviewing articles that are already published. They may be about people, but people are not explicitly involved. And as we just heard, that when we're dealing with data, there are privacy concerns, et cetera, that have to do with bringing in that data, but you're not manipulating the research to involve whether or not patients are being harmed. So what happens is when you put in your request for the review board to review your study, they may say, yes, you can go along with this under a very minor observation by the review board. The knowledge also cannot trample the rights of humans, and the purpose of medical research is to better understand the causes, development, and effects of diseases to improve both diagnoses and treatments. However, this can never take the precedence over the rights and interests of the individual research subjects. So when we're doing research, we must protect life, health, dignity, integrity, autonomy, which we've already talked about several times this morning, privacy, and the confidentiality of personal information. And before I was talking about vulnerable groups and individuals, and we have to have special protections when there are vulnerable individuals and groups. These are people who have a higher likelihood of being wronged or suffering additional harm due to their status. These groups may include children. They always include children, in fact. People who are incarcerated in prisons or jails or refugee camps, for example. People with any intellectual or physical disabilities, and racial or ethnic minorities who may face systematic injustice. So what happens is if you are putting forth a research proposal that would include any groups that the institutional review board might think are vulnerable, there are always extra protections put in place. So when we're doing this, we need to consider the potential benefits to the research subjects, but we also need to consider potential harms. And what happens then is we put into place these monitoring systems in order to monitor the study as it goes along and mitigate risks if the risks start to outweigh the potential benefits, in which case the study might immediately be stopped or modified. So for example, let's say that you're doing a study and you think that there will be 100 babies in a special care unit who are going to be recruited to be in this study. Well, you're dealing here with a vulnerable population, and even though you're concerned about what the outcome would be, let's say with timed feedings with a tube versus ad lib feedings where the nurse or the physician is deciding when the baby is hungry. You know, and you really don't know from the beginning how this is going to work out. the review board might say, we want a full report after you've done 3 babies. 3 babies have gone through the study. You may not do the whole study without monitoring. The other piece is that medical research ideas must rest in sound scientific inquiry. And that means that you need to do a complete review of the literature and relevant sources of information and the techniques of experimentation before you begin the application to the review board. The study design needs to be clearly described and justified in the research protocol as well. Studies must have transparency, which means that we need to understand the funding source, for example. And the funding source becomes really important for us in the field of breastfeeding and human lactation because we are so careful about the baby food industry, for example, because of the WHO code. However, people are not that careful about other predatory practices within the lactation community, such as breast pump companies and baby bottle companies, which are the baby bottles are maybe or maybe not covered by people's imaginations when they're thinking about the code, for example. We're also interested in institutional affiliations. There are these foundations now that formula companies and breast pump companies have put into place where they look like they're an arm's length from their funders. And so what happens is people feel like they can take funding from a foundation because it's only marginally affiliated with the money that comes into it through a company that is actually a WHO code violator. We also have potential conflicts of interest. For example, you might have one baby food company doing a study that involves a different baby food company's brand. The conflict of interest there is future marketing for the winner of the research study. We have to also disclose any incentives for subjects and compensation for potential harm. Prior to the start of the study, the research protocol should be submitted for review to an independent research ethics committee. Sometimes these are in a university, for example. Sometimes they're smaller. They may be specifically for a doctoral study. Sometimes the hospital or location in the community also needs to evaluate the research. And sometimes some of the research that I've done involves the National Science Foundation to also review it. Hopefully, the committee consists of qualified experts and they provide comments, guidance, and approval of the research. The study protocols for really big studies are often published. For example, here is the study protocol publication for the World Health Organization's immediate kangaroo mother care study group. And so well before the study started, they published the protocol in order to get feedback and information about what people thought about the proposed study. And then, as I said before, monitoring information may be provided. And in the WHO KMC study, monitoring information was really important because what they found was that they needed to stop the study. So here's the article as published, and it describes here that the study was stopped because they found that the babies who were in the control group, the ones who did not get immediate kangaroo care, had a much higher rate of dying compared to babies who were in the research group who were getting kangaroo mother care. And it's this kind of ongoing monitoring that helps the review board say, okay, stop the study. What we found here is important. other studies have been stopped. For example, there was a study that was looking at different ways to deal with sore nipples, and the mothers in one of the randomized control groups had a much higher rate of mastitis than the mothers in the other groups, and so the review board stopped the study. We've talked a lot about this already today, that personal information must be confidential and the privacy of the research subjects has to be protected, and there must be informed consent. The informed consent must be obtained in writing from those who are able to provide it. I have worked on some studies where the participants are read the information and then they ink their finger and apply their finger because they are unable to sign. They don't have they're not literate. But in most part, the writing must be obtained. As part of the consent process, the participant has the right to know all of the things that have been told to the review board. And any potential research subject may have a refuse to participate and withdraw, and that participation and withdrawing can happen without reprisal. In other words, there should be no problems, no problem for someone to decide to withdraw. And even more consideration needs to be given to anyone who's incapable of giving informed consent because they have mental or physical incapacity. For example, someone who's in a coma or a fetus, in which case you have obtaining consent from a legally authorized representative. One way of doing this without getting consent from each individual person can be described in this probit trial, which happened in Belarus. And what they did here was divide the country into different areas and provide baby-friendly assistance to randomized hospitals. But as a general rule, any new intervention must be tested against the existing gold standard or the best proven treatment that presently exists. After the study has been done, it's important to disseminate the research. And on completion of the trial, the researchers have an ethical obligation to share the results. These results must be complete and accurate, and negative or inconclusive results, as well as positive findings, must be disclosed. And I have an example of this. This is one of my doctoral students in Denmark. And this is the culmination. She had several studies published regarding her research, which was to help health visitors better support breastfeeding. This is a huge study, a very, very expensive study. It was cluster randomization of communities and involved just an enormous amount of time, effort, and funding. And what they found was that the effort yielded 0 results. So the mothers who were in the breastfeeding support groups had no better outcome than mothers who were not. And in fact, in some cases, the mothers who were unsupported had the best outcome. So this is published, it's out there, and I think it's just a tribute to the idea of ethics in research, that we would be able to read outcomes that were less favorable than we thought. So thank you very much. I've loved being here with you here this morning, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karen. Anybody has questions for Dr. Karen? Any questions? That was really very informative, Dr. Karen.
Thank you. I think that I hope that we're past the moments where people thought that they could just do breastfeeding research because they understood about breastfeeding and understand about research.
I think this science is still in the cradle. I mean, there's much research to be done, and there are so many innovations that are in place, and there are many others are on the way. So I think research will never stop.
One of the worries that we have, I've just finished, and Dr. Azza was part of this as well. We just finished a Cochrane review
Yes.
on skin to skin, and
Yeah.
and the idea of only having the standard against routine care came up because routine care is insufficient.
Yes.
And so, we've had some discussions about that. I have to go. I have to be on office hours in just 2 minutes, but thank you so much for having me.
No, you're most welcome all the time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Now we have Dr. Ghada, and Dr. Ghada is very much into the code. She is a consultant neonatologist and IBCLC since 2003. And she's very much into the code, the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. In brief, the WHO code, as the Americans call it. Dr. Ghada is the IFAN Arab World Regional Coordinator, and she is a member of the IBLCE Ethics Discipline Committee. She's a board member of ELCA, with also she's concerned with the code issue in ELCA. Welcome, Dr. Ghada.
السلام عليكم. الصوت مسموع كده؟ شكرا دكتورة أمل عشان طبعا خليتيني الفرصة دي إن أنا أتكلم في الويبينار ده مع الناس المهمة جدا دي، وإن شاء الله يا رب نستفيد. الموضوع اللي أنا هتكلم عليه هو في المؤتمرات، هو المؤتمرات بتاعة الرضاعة الطبيعية أو المؤتمرات اللي بتاعة الأطفال اللي هي بيبقوا السبونسرز بتوعها شركات ألبان للأسف. وهنشوف بالظبط ايه موقف الاي بي ال سي اي من الموضوع ده وموقف الكود. طبعا يعني مفيش داعي نتكلم على اهميه الرضاعه الطبيعيه، والدبليو اتش او بتريكومند ان الاطفال الرضاعه الطبيعيه مطلقه اول 6 شهور، وبعد كده يبتدوا ياخدوا nutritionally adequate and safe complementary food ويكملوا الرضاعه الطبيعيه لغايه 2 years and beyond. ال WHO بتقول كده، احنا بنقول حولين كاملين لمدة سنتين بس يرضعوا لمدة سنتين. طبعا وعارفين ان في وفيات حوالي 600,000 في السنة نتيجة النيمونيا والديارية اللي هي ممكن البريست فيدنج يقلل انتشارهم عليه. في طبعا على مدى السنين اللي فاتت البريست فيدنج انديكيتور زي الايرلي انيشيشن والاكسكلوزيف بريست فيدنج في طبعا شويه تحسن، لكن المبيعات والبير كابيتا انتيك اوف كوميرشال ميلك فورمولا بتزيد جدا جدا على مستوى العالم، بالذات في الابر والميدل انكم كونتريز، والاجريسيف ماركتنج للمادرز والهيلث كير وركرز باي كوميرشال ميلك فورمولا. طبعا المانيفاكتشررز اند ديستريبيوترز هي اكثر مشكله بتواجه الجلوبال هيلث لمده سنين، وبتادفيرسلي افكت الفيدنج براكتس فور انفنتس اند يانج تشيلدرن. طبعا بينتج عنه بور هيلث اوتكمز في الاطفال ونون كوميونيكابل ديزيز بالذات في الامهات، والفايوليشنز طبعا حوالينا في كل حته. وتبع إلكا عملنا مونيتورنج للفايوليشنز في 9 محافظات في 2012، وطبعا لقينا ان هي الفايوليشنز مغرقه الدنيا. ال WHO بتريكومند ان عشان to promote, protect and support breastfeeding وكمان prevent obesity و NCDs و promote healthy diets and ensure that caregivers receive clear and accurate information on feeding. يعني companies that market foods for infant and young children should not sponsor meeting of health professionals and scientific meetings. يعني هي في يعني جبهتين. الجبهة الأولانية الشركات اللي بتنتج بدائل لبن الأم مش مفروض تسبونسر الميتينجز بتاعة الدكاترة خالص. من الناحية الثانية بقى الهيلث وركرز والهيلث سيستمز والاسوسيشنز والان جي اوز مش مفروض يسمحوا للكومبانيز دي ان هي تسبونسر الميتينج خالص. يعني احنا عندنا اثنين في بينهم شركات عايزه تبيع كتير، ولما تبيع كتير الانكم بتاعها هيزيد وبالتالي الاستهلاك بتاعها هيزيد، فبالتالي الناس هترضع، الستات هترضع اقل. المفروض الهيلث وركرز والهيلث سيستمز والاسوسيشنز والان جي او هدفهم العكس، هدفهم صحه البيبيهات، وبالتالي المفروض البيبيهات عشان كده بقى ال WHO من سنة 79 قعدوا سنة ونص عشان يطلعوا الانترناشونال كود اوف ماركتنج اوف بريست ميلك سبستيوتس، طلع سنة 81 والحمد لله الحمد لله احنا أخيرا في مصر عملنا كود إن شاء الله يتمضي قريب ويبقى جاهز بإذن الله، هيساعد جامد إن المخالفات بتاعت شركات الألبان دي خالص. الكود ده من سنة 81 يعني من حاجة 40 سنة، فده قديم جدا، لكن الورد هيلث اسامبلي بيطلع ريزولوشن سنه وسنه لا السنوات الفرديه مكمله للكود. واخر واحد اللي هو كان السنه دي 2025 كان على ديجيتال ماركتنج. يعني هم هممهم دلوقتي موضوع الديجيتال ماركتنج لانه لقوا الشركات بتاعت الالبان مركزه قوي في الديجيتال ماركتنج، وفعلا بتعرف عن طريق الديجيتال ماركتنج مش بيكلف كتير وبتوصل لعدد امهات كتير جدا وعدد طبعا دكاتره كتير جدا وبتنشر الماركتنج بتاعها. هنتكلم من دلوقتي على الماركت بتاع الانفنت فورمولا على مستوى العالم. لقينا في سنه 2018 كانوا 45 بليون دولار. مفروض ان هو عمال يزيد لدرجه هم متوقعين هو في 2026 هيبقى 103 بليون دولار. متخيلين قد ايه؟ يعني هيبقى اكتر من 2026. طبعا الارتيكل بتاع الكود اللي هو السكوب بتاع الكود، ايه الحاجات اللي داخله في الكود؟ اول حاجه الالبان من 0 ل 6 ومن 6 ل 12 ومن سنه ل3 سنين. والدكتوره امل كانت بتقول ان اخترعوا 3، لا دلوقتي انا كنت في الامارات من شهرين لقيتهم اخترعوا 4. اخترعوا اللي هي من 3 سنين ل5 سنين وسموه 4. يعني هم مش هيزهقوا. وفي طبعا بلاد زي بنجلاديش مثلا الكود بتاعها بيغطي الالبان كلها ومنتجات الاطفال لغايه 5 سنين. فده بقى الستيب اللي بعد كده ان هي مش هتبقى لغايه 3 سنين، كمان هتبقى 5 سنين. طبعا بيبقى معانا كمان داخل في السكوب الكومبليمنتري فيدنج لو مكتوب عليها ان هي سن اقل من 6 شهور، يعني في بيبقى مكتوب عليها 4 بلس، في بيبقى مكتوب عليها 5 بلس، او يكون مرسوم عليها ببرونه، او بيتقال طريقه ان هي البيبي ياخدها يبقى عن طريق ببرونه، يبقى دي تعتبر بديل لبن الام وتخش معانا في المدون. زائد الفيزيك البامبس، وفي بيدخلوا الباسيفايرز وكده، بس احنا بنتكلم على اللي هو الستاندرد اللي هو ايه اضعف. هي الكليمز الثانيه بتاعت الالبان دي مش موجوده، لكن اول واحد ده مكتوب عليه DHA، والثاني مكتوب مش عارفه formulated for babies with fussiness وجاز وكوليك وكراينج، والثاني amazing milk complex sensitive and comforting. بيقولوا ادعاءات عشان خاطر الناس تشتري الالبان دي. طب ده الارتكل نمره 7 اللي يخص الهيلث وركرز في الانترناشونال كود برضه بيقولوا ان هي العين بتوع شركات الالبان ممكن اوقات بيدوا مساعدات ماليه عشان الاطباء يعملوا فellowships، يروحوا study tours، research attendance of professional conferences. مفروض لو هم هيعملوا كده يبلغوا الجهه اللي هم بيشتغلوا فيها، والدكتور نفسه لازم يبلغ المكان اللي بيشتغل فيه. سنة 89 WHO واليونيسف قالوا ان الهيلث كارير اسوسيشن ممكن المفروض ان هم يبروموت appropriate teaching curricula for health workers وdevelop socially responsible policies for encouraging and supporting breastfeeding in maternity and other health services. يعني الجمعيات او بتاعه الاطفال دي المفروض يبقى وظيفتها تدرب الدكاتره وان هي تبقى هدفها الرضاعه الطبيعيه في المستشفيات اللي فيها ولاد. في ريزولوشن طلع سنه 2005 اعتبر اللي هو الفاينانشال سبورت واذر incentives for programs and health professionals working in infant and young child health do not create conflict of interest. يعني المفروض اللي هو الدعم المادي اللي بيدوه للدكاتره ما يعمل conflict of interest، وهنتكلم على موضوع conflict of interest دلوقتي. 2016 طلعوا ending the inappropriate promotion of foods for infants and young children. 2017 زي اللي الدكتوره امل قالت لنا عليه الجايدنس ده بصراحه كان مفيد جدا وكان ثوره في عالم الرضاعه الطبيعيه. واتكلم برضو الجايدنس ان المفروض الشركات اللي بتماركت الفودز فور infant and young children should not create conflict of interest in health facilities، ومش مفروض تسبونسر meeting of health professionals and scientific meetings. يعني قالت الشركات دي مش مفروض تعمل conflict of interest وما تعملش sponsorship للمؤتمرات. اما الهيلث وركرز والهيلث سيستمز والاسوسيشنز والان جي اوز المفروض نفس الحكايه avoid the conflict of interest وما يسمحوش للشركات دي ان هي تسبونسر الميتنج عشان الكريديبيليتي بتاعتهم هتفقد لو قبلوا الفاندز من شركات الالبان. يعني يخوفوا الدكاتره من سمعتهم ان هم الناس مش هتثق فيهم. وطبعا الريبورت بتاع دي كلها يعني اصدارات بتاعت WHO، وفي اهمها الستيتس ريبورت بيطلع كل سنه زوجيه يعني 2024 و2026. ومصر كانت يعني الحقيقه النمره اللي واخداها في الكود ما كانتش مشرفه قوي، يعني بلاد كتيره حتى في المنطقه اكتر منها، فان شاء الله باذن الله مع الكود الجديد ده نبقى اكتر من كده بكتير. برضو اللانست سنة 24 سنة اللي فاتت عملت عدد على call to end sponsorship from commercial milk formula companies only by working together can you neutralize the threat posed by sponsorship. وده الصورة من العدد ده اللي هو في مارس 24. يقول لك بالرغم من official declarations of adopting the code في معظم jurisdictions، لكن الماركتينج strategies are still directed towards healthcare professional associations. يعني بالرغم من بلاد كتير مثلا في المنطقة بتاعتنا عملت كود وجددت الكود وكده، لكن لا تزال المؤتمرات هدف للشركات بتاعت الألبان. هي من 114 بيدياتريك اسوسيشن خدوا سبونسرشيب من شركات الالبان. طبعا لو اتعمل ده عندنا مش هيبقى 60%، هيبقى اكتر من كده بكتير، بس هم يعني عملوا على مستوى العالم لقاهم ايه 60% من المؤتمرات سبونسرد باي شركات الالبان. زي ما اتفقنا ان هم شركات الالبان ان هم يزودوا الفوليوم والبروفيت مارجن للفورمولا سيلز، وبالتالي يزودوا الاستهلاك بتاع البريست ميلك سبستيتيوتس، وده طبعا عكس هم بيدعوا ان هم بيشجعوا الرضاعه الطبيعيه وبيسبورت الانفنت اند يانج تشايلد نيوتريشن. يعني هم بيخشوا لك ان هم انا جايه اتكلم عن الرضاعه الطبيعيه، بس هم في الاصل طبعا هو عايز المنتج بتاعه هو اللي يتباع كتير. ويقولوا ان ده مش هتعرفي ترضعي عليكي باستعمال اللبن الفلاني. طبعا ايه بيبقى هي دي طريقه عشان خاطر يروجوا بيها المنتج بتاعهم. زائد طبعا الهيلث كليمز ان هو بيزود الذكاء، بيزود النظر، بيزود المناعه، كل دي هيلث كليمز بتتحط عشان خاطر يبيعوا اللبن بتاعهم. طب دور الاسوسيشنز دي استنى بقى لغايه ما كده. طيب الاسوسيشنز دي دورها مهم جدا. اول حاجه في الاديوكيشن بتاع الهيلث وركر بتحط جايد لاينز اللي هي بتحدد الكلينيكال براكتسز والكوريكولمز والتريننج بروجرامز. ريسيرش بتعمل اكسس للنتورك للهيلث كير وركرز، يعني هي بتجمع الدكاتره والهيلث كير وركرز. هي تعتبر trusted source of information. طبعا دورها الاساسي enhance maternal and child health and protect, promote and support optimal feeding for infants and young children. وطبعا اللي هم الهيلث المفروض ان هم بيحذروا من الهيلث ريسكس اللي بتاعت اللي هي الالبان الصناعيه. شركات ما بتتعاملش اسفه بعض الجمعيات ما بتستعملش خالص، زي مثلا جمعيه إلكا ما بتتعاملش خالص مع اي شركات البان، وممنوع علينا خالص لان احنا عارفين ان احنا نحترم الكود، وان احنا ما فيش اي مؤتمر اتعمل او ويبينار بتاع إلكا وفي شركه طبعا البان. لكن اللي هي الاتفاق بتاع اللي هو الشركات الالبان مع الجمعيات بيعمل conflict of interest، ممكن يأثر على الريسيرش. لو هم الجمعية دي بتعمل ريسيرش هيأثر عليها. طبعا ممكن تكون طريقة عشان خاطر يوزعوا المعلومات بتاعتهم والدعاية بتاعتهم بتاعت الألبان. ممكن طبعا بتوصل لعدد أكبر من الناس، وبتأندرماين الاندبندنس والاوبجكتيفيتي بتاعت الجمعية، وبتقلل طبعا الامبليكيشنز اوف بريست فيدنج براكتسز والويلفير اوف فاميليز. يعني هي مؤذيه بكل الطرق. conflict له تعريفين. اول حاجه هي situation where financial or other material incentives might undermine, compromise or work against optimal health recommendations. في حالتنا اللي هو ده الاوبتيمال هيلث ريكومنديشن اللي هي الرضاعه الطبيعيه. او situation ده بقى اعم واشمل situations where an individual has an obligation to serve a party or perform a role and the individual has either يا اما بياخد incentives فلوس او conflicting loyalties يبقى له يعني مختلف الولاء بتاعه which encourage the individual to act in ways that breach his or her obligations. بيعمل تصرفات بيبقى مخالفة اللي هي للمفروض اللي هو بيؤمن بيه وبيعمل. طب السبونسرشيب بتاعت الشركات الألبان بتبقى في صورة ايه؟ يا اما بتبقى في صورة جورنالز او نيوزليترز او اي publications. بتفند طبعا conferences او events، scholarship, fellowship, grants and awards للدكاترة، بتفند research، بتفند ويب سايتس، بتفند equipment، ممكن تجيب equipment للدكتور ده او للجمعية دي، paid advertisements in publications. لو الجمعية دي عندها مجلة بتحط ايه، بتنزل فيها اعلانات عن اللبن. ولو يبقى في مؤتمر بيبقى بتاخد بوث في المؤتمر ده وتعرض اللي هي المنتجات بتاعتها. طيب عشان avoid أو manage conflict of interest بنعمل المفروض adhere to stringent policies on the acceptance and utilization of financial support from commercial entities. يعني كل واحد أو كل جمعية يبقى لها سياسة إن هي تقبل السبونسرشيب من جهات تجاريه، ومفروض اللي هي الفاندنج يبقى حاجات مقبوله، ويبقى في رولز فور مانجينج الكونفليكت اوف انترست. طب السبونسرشيب بيأندرماين بريست فيدنج، يعتبر زي ما قلنا conflict of interest، وبيخلي الشركه دي الجمعيه او الشخص ده بيلوز الكريديبيليتي بتاعته. يعني انا بروح لدكتور عارفه ان هو الدكتور ده المفروض ولاؤه لمصلحه المريض، لا ده بيبقى ولاؤه للشركه اللي ودته مؤتمر، ولا الشركه اللي خلته يروح يتفسح في حته، او يعني ايا كان نوع السبونسرشيب. طبعا اورجانيزيشنز اللي خدت موقف من ضمنها إلفان طبعا عملت وورلد بريست فيدنج كونفرنس، نمره 1 في الهند، نمره 2 جنوب افريقيا، 3 البرازيل، 4 مصر، وان شاء الله الخامسه في 2026 هيبقى في ايرلندا. ما بتقبلش طبعا خالص. البريتش ميديكال جورنال ما بيقبلش. الرويال كولج اوف بيدياتريكس اند تشايلد هيلث اخر مؤتمر ليهم كان هنا في مصر، وكان في شركات البان بس حجمه جامد جدا، ومن ساعتها قرروا ان هم ما ياخدوش اي سبونسرشيب من شركات الالبان. اما عندنا في مصر بقى، عندنا بقى المؤسسه المصريه لاطباء اطفال مصر، دول مجموعه من الشباب عملوا اول مؤتمر اطفال في مصر مش بشركات الالبان، عملوه في اللي هي اكاديميه الاميره فاطمه، وكان ناجح طبعا جدا جدا. وهم قصدوا يعلنوا ان هم ما خدوش اي سبونسرشيب من شركات الالبان. طبعا احنا بنحييهم جدا جدا على الموقف ده، لان بعدها برضو كل الايفنتس بتاعتهم ما بيبقاش فيها اي شركات. طيب المؤتمر ده احنا عايزين نعمل مؤتمر، مفيش داعي نعمله في اوتيل 5 ستارز وكده، ممكن نعمله في مكان يكون متواضع شويه والناس كتير تيجي ونعمل له فيز يعني، او ناخد فاندنج من شركات غير شركات الالبان. ما في شركات ادويه كتير، انتيبيوتكس، كحه، مش عارفه ايه، ناخد منهم. ولو حصل من شركه لازم نعلن ان الشركه دي دفعنا عشان خاطر ان هو تبقى حاجه واضحه للناس كلها. يحبوا يدوا لمين؟ بيحبوا يدوا الدكاتره اللي بيشتغلوا في مستشفيات او في عيادات عامه، او حتى في برايفت براكتس. IBCLCs طبعا من ضمن الناس المهمين جدا بالنسبه لهم، او الريسيرشرز والاكاديميكس بيحبوا برضه يخشوا في الريسيرش عشان ايه؟ يطلعوا اللبن بتاعهم ده احسن حاجه. ده بيقول the people you trust for advice are a target for formula milk marketing. يعني الدكاتره اللي هم المفروض احنا بنثق فيهم في رايهم، دول هدف مهم جدا لشركات الالبان. اما IBCLCs بقى يعني بالعكس اكتر بقى، لان هم هدف جامد جدا، لانه عارفين الناس بتثق في IBCLCs، والحمد لله اعداد IBCLCs عماله تزيد سواء في المنطقه او على مستوى العالم، فبالتالي بقوا تارجت مهم جدا لشركات الالبان، لان هم الناس بتسمع كلامهم. IBCLCs يعني اولا اهدافهم غير يعني اكتر من الدكاتره العاديين. ليه؟ لان هم هدفهم الرضاعه الطبيعيه، فلازم الام بتروح لهم عشان الرضاعه الطبيعيه، فهي دي الوقت المناسب. يمكن دكتور الاطفال بتروح له عشان كحه، اسهال، مش عارفه اي حاجات ثانيه، لكن هي رايحه لللاكتيشن IBCLC عشان خاطر الايه؟ الموضوع بتاع النيوتريشن عامه. اللاكتيشن كونفرنسز السبونسر بالميلك كومبانيز بتعمل بوتنشال كونفليكت اوف انترست للIBCLCs، بتعمل طبعا للجمعيات دي فاينانشال سبورت، بتخلي في شك في ان الاديوكيشن والبراكتس بتاع الIBCLCs اللي هياخدوه من الكومباني دي. الاكزيبيشن طبعا بيساعد ان هو يعرف الIBCLCs بالبرودكتس المختلفه. اشهر شركات بتدعم المؤتمرات هي فورمولا كومبانيز طبعا، لان هم يقول لك لو البريست فيدنج از نوت بوسيبل او عايز سبليمنتيشن استعمل اللبن. البريست بامب برضو نفس الحكايه، من ضمن الشركات اللي بتدعم المؤتمرات بتاعه الرضاعه الطبيعيه. الميلك ستورج بروفايدرز طبعا اللي هي الحاجات دي، والبريست ميلك ستورج باجز والبوتلز والحاجات دي، دول برضو بيعرضوا في المؤتمرات دي. البيبي سلينجز والسترولرز والبريست فيدنج بيلوز اللي هي مخدات الرضاعه، والنيرسينج ستولز اللي هي المحطوط اللي رجلها عليه ده، كل دول برضو بيشاركوا في المؤتمرات بتاعه الرضاعه. برضو النيبل شيلدز والنيبل كريمز، كل دي الشركات دي بتبقى مهتمه جدا ان هي تشترك في مؤتمرات الرضاعه. ال طبعا دي اهم حاجه، لان دي اللي بتدي السيرفس للإديوكيشنال اكتيفيتي، وهي دي اللي بتدي الشهاده للIBCLCs. فمفروض ان هم بتاعتهم بيطلعينها اسمها minimizing commercial influence on education policy، ولازم كل الIBCLCs يقروا الكوميرشال influence on policy دي.
Excuse me, دكتورة ندى.
طيب.
We have non-Arabic speaking audience.
The presentation is in English. I can read.
Yes, but
okay.
you know, they don't.
I saw only one or two non-Egyptians, but mostly they are Egyptians.
Yes, but
anyway, I'm about to finish. أمل قالت لنا على Code of Professional Conduct، عبارة عن 8 principles اللي هي services that protect, promote and support breastfeeding, act with due diligence يعني تصرف بالعناية الواجبة، preserve confidentiality of clients, report accurately and completely to other members of the healthcare team, exercise independent judgment and avoid conflict of interest, maintain personal integrity, uphold the professional standards expected for an IBCLC, or comply with the IBLCE disciplinary procedures. دول اللي الدكتورة أمل قالت لنا عليهم، ودول باختصار اللي هي الكود اوف بروفيشنال كوندكت. ده لما بيلأسك ديسيبلين كوميتي بيجي لها الشكوى طبعا ما فيش حاجه اسمها فعل خير، الشكوى دي لازم يبقى كاتب اسمه والايميل بتاعه وكل ويبقى فيه ايفيدنس قويه، يا اما من الاول بتبقى ديسمست، يا اما بتروح تمشي في الخطوات دي، وممكن السب كوميتي تلاقي ان هي مش فايوليشن، او ان هي تلاقيها وتقول السانكشن بتاعتها. قلنا الethical considerations conflict of interest والword WHO code أو الهو كود زي ما كارن قالت and subsequent World Health Assembly resolutions will impact on families. Aggressive marketing by formula companies can negatively influence infant feeding decisions, potentially undermining breastfeeding rates and increasing the risk of health complications for both mothers and babies. الريسبونسبيلتي بتاعت الIBCLC أول حاجة كود اوف بروفيشنال كوندكت، ديسكلوجر لو حصل إن في شركة عملت له أي حاجة مساعدة لازم يقول إن هو الشركة دي عملت له. المفروض ما يبقى independent judgment، مش عشان الشركة دي بعتت له يبقى أو بعتته في حتة أو مؤتمر أو كده ده يأثر على الريكومنديشنز بتاعته للزبائن بتوعه. المفروض إن هو يقول للفاميليز اللي هو بتجيله ان هو لو مثلا حد عايز يشتري لبن، اشتروا اللبن اللي انتوا عاوزينه، ما يقولش اسم لبن معين حتى لو كانت الشركه معينه ساهمت في ان هو يروح مؤتمر. السيرف بروفايدر بقى المؤتمر اللي هو اللي بيعمل بيدي سيرفز لازم هو مسؤول عن الاديوكيشنال كونتنت والليرنينج اوبجكتيفز والسبيكرز اللي بيختارهم. ممكن يقبل برضو فاندز من شركات بس لازم طبعا يعلن عنها. الIBLCE بتعمل هي سيرفيس ابروفر، while IBCLCs are not explicitly forbidden from attending or participating in company sponsored events. بس احنا عن نفسنا احنا بنروح، لو اضطرينا نروح ما بنشربش حتى الميه بتاعتهم ولا بناكل الاكل بتاعهم ولا باي حاجه، لان في اوقات بتبقى بعض المؤتمرات فيها سيشن عن الرضاعه الطبيعيه، فاحنا بيبقى نفسنا نسمع زمايلنا ونفسنا نحضر، بس ايه ما نقربش من حاجتهم. ولازم نقول يعني مش بس ناخد الموقف ده ونسكت، لازم نفهم كل اللي حوالينا، لان اللي حوالينا ممكن ما يكونوش IBCLCs وهم مش فاهمين حكايه شركات الالبان ومش او حاسين ان دي حاجه عاديه. They must be aware of the potential for conflict of interest and adhere to ethical guidelines to protect breastfeeding and inform families appropriately. Potential conflict of interest يا اما بيinfluence recommendation يا اما بيدي distorted information. طبعا زي ما قلنا transparency و minimize commercial influence. IBCLCs لازم يبقوا aware of the potential conflicts of interest, critically evaluate the information. مش أي حد يقول لي أي حاجة أصدقها. Seek diverse perspectives from a variety of sources and perspectives, including those not affiliated with real companies. Advocate for change for greater transparency and accountability from companies and organizations that sponsor lactation education. سنة 2022 IBLCE طلعت قرار إن هي مش هتقبل أي educational credits من 2022 لسيرتيفيكيت بتدعمها شركات الألبان. يبقى من 2022 أنا لما باجي كل 5 سنين أقدم السيربس، ممنوع إن أنا أقدم سيربس من مؤتمر. المؤتمر ده كان فيه دعمها شركة ألبان. ده لما عملنا المؤتمر بتاع مصر هنا في 2023 كل واحد من السبيكرز عمل اللي هو ايه سبيكر ديسكلوجر اند كونفليكت اوف انترست ديكلاريشن فورم عشان يدونا السيربس. كل واحد من السبيكر مضى الفورم دي، حتى في ناس كانت عمرها ما شافتها ومستغربين ليها، بس ده عشان خاطر ناخد السيربس بتاعتنا. طب recommendations بالنسبه للجمعيات should endorse sponsorship from companies that market breast milk substitutes, transparency and disclosure بالنسبة لأي حد بياخد أي منفعة من شركات ألبان، وأدرس طبعا national code، وfocus on evidence-based information, prioritize breastfeeding, independent education. We ELCA call upon all IBCLCs to bring an end to sponsorship relationship with companies that market breast milk substitutes, or all health patients to end sponsorship from companies that market breast milk substitutes. وشكرا.
شكرا، ألف شكر يا دكتورة غادة. معانا أسئلة بعضها يعني I think إنه اتجاوب بعد ما اتسألت، بس برضه هنسألها تاني. دكتورة رينا consultant neonatologist from Korea, but she's working in Kuwait. She's asking about is the sponsorship from these companies acceptable? اللي هي ايه بقى companies breast pumps and accessories, companies secondly from human milk based diet products like Prolacta.
احنا يعني معلش هي بتقول على برودكت اللي هو برولاكتا ده. الشركه دي شركه امريكاني بتخلي الستات الامريكان اللي في امريكا يعملوا بامبينج للبريست ميلك بتاعهم و يعني يجيبوه هنا يستوردوه هنا في مصر. طبعا احنا كان عندنا مشكله ان هم كانوا عايزين يعملوا تعامل اللي هو
Arabic speaking يا دكتورة غادة.
I'm sorry. Okay. This Prolacta wanted to sponsor our conference in 2023, and actually this was forbidden. Because it's breast milk substitutes. It's expressed breast milk from mothers. لكن breast pump and accessories no problems about it.
How about, this is my question, how about if the breast pump company also produces bottles?
There
Like
are
for example,
some
I'm in the ethical committee, I'm in the code compliance committee of the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine. We don't do this.
Because mainly most of the breast pumps produce also bottles, and they usually give the bottle as a gift with the pump. Of course, this company should not be sponsoring any.
Okay, طيب Dr. Rasha is asking what's the correct behavior for a doctor invited to participate in an important conference in his or her specialty, but sponsored by formula companies.
ما احنا اتفقنا ان هو يروح لو هو خلاص بس ولا ياكل ولا يشرب يعني ميه حتى ما بنشربهاش.
طيب another question. I think I answered this question in my presentation, but
لا دكتورة رشا I say is the call هل الكود يشمل الألبان العلاجية؟ yes.
Yes, I said it in my presentation because, you know, I said it in my presentation, even if it's like for inborn errors of metabolism or stuff, and even if the government subsidizes it, but still it has to be bought from the retail price, and it shouldn't be advertised. Our problem is with the advertisement. What people are confused about is that they think that we don't want this formula to be available. No, it should be available, but not advertised. Our problem is only with advertisement, right? دكتورة غادة.
أيوة right.
Yeah. طيب, any more questions for دكتورة غادة?
مفيش.
طيب, we promised you of 2 hours SERPs, but now we have done 3 hours. Then this can be 2 SERPs. وشكرا جدا يا دكتورة غادة. Thank you very much for your comprehensive and informative presentation. I hope this can change some behaviors and can, of course, we IBCLCs, we are code compliant, but still we have to clarify some points. And I hope this can help all the colleagues to make decisions whether to participate, whether not to participate. We all are faced with some questions in our practice and in our interactions. So I hope you got the benefit that you wanted, and we have provided like 3 SERPs now, not only 2 SERPs as promised, but 3 SERPs. I hope Dr. Mai is with us to confirm this. But even if she's not there, she can watch the YouTube.
أنا معاكم يا دكتورة أمل. أيوة.
Am I right, Dr. Mai?
Yes, it's okay. 3 SERPs.
Thank you, Dr. Mai. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
شكرا دكتورة أمل for the webinar. It's really very important, very informative. Thank you for all the speakers, and كل سنة وانتم طيبين.
وانتم طيبين، وإن شاء الله يا رب يعني السنة تبقى مثمرة ونقدر نحقق فيها يعني كل اللي احنا بنتمناه. شكرا ليكم، شكرا for attending. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone. Yes, inshallah. Okay. Goodbye.